Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to all of you joining us from across India and the globe. Over the next 3 hours, we will be talking about green cooling in India with experts from the government, industry, academia, and policy research. We will also be launching a policy brief series on green cooling and a working paper on financing energy efficiency under the Montreal Protocol, as Mr. Bhushan has already mentioned. My name is Aparupa, and I'm a researcher in the Energy and Climate Change Research vertical at iForest. My core research expertise is in sustainable cooling and the implementation of Kigali Amendment, and my research interests lie at the cross-section of inclusive development and urban sustainability. This event is hosted by the International Forum for Environment, Sustainability and Technology, or iForest as we call it, and funded by the Shakti Sustainable Energy Foundation. iForest is an independent, non-profit environmental organization that seeks to find, promote, and scale up solutions for some of the most pressing environment development challenges. I will quickly pull up the agenda for today's meeting. The agenda for the next 3 hours is for the first 35 minutes, we have our inaugural session. It is a true honor to have our distinguished guests for this inaugural session, Mr. Aditya Narayan Singh Ji, Additional Director of Ozone Cell, Ministry of Environment, Forest and Climate Change as our chief guest, and Dr. Anshu Bharadwaj, CEO of Shakti Sustainable Energy Foundation as the special guest for this event. Mr. Chandrabhushan, CEO of iForest, will set the context for today's event with an opening presentation. Following the inaugural session, we have 3 panel discussions which will span about 50 minutes with the country's foremost experts on various aspects of cooling technology and policy research. The panel discussions will be on revitalizing the India Cooling Action Plan, strategies to mainstream natural refrigerant and not-in-kind cooling technologies, and integrating energy efficiency with the refrigerant transition in India. We have allotted about 10 minutes of each panel discussions for audience Q&A. So please feel free to drop in your questions in the Q&A box provided. To start off today's proceedings, I invite Mr. Chandrabhushan, CEO iForest, to speak about the relevance of green cooling in India's climate and developmental agenda.
Thank you, Aparupa. Thank you very much for this nice introduction to the program. We are very excited that we have some of the finest experts on cooling sector participating in this webinar. We have representation from government, industry, civil society, researchers, consultant. So we are very happy with the group of people who are coming today to discuss the importance, opportunities, and challenges of green cooling in India. Now, what I'm going to do is, over the next 10 minutes, give you an overview of the work that we have done under this program and how we think the green cooling agenda in India needs to move ahead. So I have a presentation and I'll... Yeah. I think the starting point of any discussion on green cooling in India is to recognize the fact that our cooling requirement is truly humongous. In fact, our cooling requirement is equal to the cooling requirement of next 10 largest countries as far as cooling is concerned. For example, our cooling requirement is 3 times larger than China's, simply because of the temperature and humidity conditions that prevails in our country. It is close to 12 times of the United States. So if you put the cooling requirement of 2nd to 11 most cooling required countries together, that together is equal to India's cooling requirement. So I think to understand and to contextualize why we need to be very efficient with cooling is because we probably will be the make or break country as far as global cooling efficiency or global cooling transition technology is concerned. Now, this number will change. We have seen in last few months how temperature and humidity because of climate change is changing across the world, from 50 odd degrees temperature in North America to wildfire to the kind of humidity we have seen this monsoon season in India, or for instance, the kind of rainfall we are witnessing in Mahabaleshwar in Maharashtra. So these numbers will change, and these numbers will change for worse. Our cooling requirement, because of change in temperature, increasing temperature and humidity, is likely to increase. Now, having said that, it is also important to understand that as the globe warms in more, as the humidity increases because of warming, cooling is now an equity issue. Cooling is required for everyone. It is no more a luxury issue. We will have to provide cooling simply because people will not be able to function without cooling their spaces. Now, there are two components of cooling. One is energy. If you look at any global estimation on cooling, India figures predominantly. Now, this is a 2018 IEA report on cooling. How do we reduce the climate impact of cooling? Now, in this report, you can see in 2016, the total greenhouse gas emission from cooling sector was about 1 billion ton of CO2 equivalent. In baseline scenario, it is projected to double, and a significant proportion of this increase will come from a country like India. Now, which means that India also has an opportunity to reduce this global emission from cooling. In fact, the third row that you see, the third bar that you see, shows that 1/3 of greenhouse gas emission reduction from efficiency gain comes from India. The bottom last orange color bar is India. 1/3 of all the energy efficiency gains by 2050 actually is in India. Now, which means that from even energy perspective in cooling sector, which is also in our benefit, less energy consumption in India is good for India's economy and for Indian consumers, but it also has great global benefit. So from cooling perspective, energy perspective, India has to start thinking about how do we reduce energy requirement as well as greenhouse gas reduction from the cooling sector. But that's not what is happening right now. If you see the current market of air conditioners and refrigeration appliances in India, we unfortunately, our average equipment energy efficiency is one of the lowest in the world. And I'm comparing that with emerging economies and the developed world. So if you can see this chart on the right-hand side, India is right at the bottom with Thailand as far as average efficiency of air conditioners are concerned. And it is 40 to 50% lower than what average is being sold in the developed countries market. Fortunately, those technologies are also available in India. The difference between the best technology available in India, the best energy efficient appliance available in India, and the average is about 40 to 50%. So technology is not a bottleneck. It's just that our market has not been prepped up, has not been incentivized to move to higher efficiency. On the other hand, we will continue to use, at least for next 10 years, as per the Kigali Amendment, use of high GWP refrigerant, like R410, which has a global warming potential of thousands of times more than carbon dioxide. So both from refrigerant perspective and energy efficiency perspective, there's huge potential in India to, first of all, reduce our own energy consumption, make our appliances more efficient, reduce our greenhouse gas emissions, and benefit our consumers. All these will lead to profitability for the economy and benefit to the consumers. And therefore, if suppose, and this is just I wanted to show it to you, the benefits of the Kigali Amendment, which is great. Kigali Amendment is going to reduce global warming by 0.4 degrees Celsius if the current trajectory of Kigali Amendment is met. But if we advance Kigali Amendment reduction in HFCs, the climate benefits are even more. But again, this will depend on what kind of international negotiations happens, what kind of funding is available. Those are international negotiations, and we have done a policy paper on this, which we will be releasing today. But coming back to the point of what happens if India decides to enhance energy efficiency and move to low GWP refrigerant together. The benefit is 400 million tons of CO2 less in 2030. Think about it. It is about 20% of India's current greenhouse gas emissions, maybe about 15% of India's current greenhouse gas emissions. This is the benefit of moving to energy efficient appliances and low GWP refrigerant. Now, this was the context under which we started this program, and therefore our entire approach under this program has been to identify barriers and look at opportunities for two very clear objectives. One was to look at natural refrigerant, and second was to look at not-in-kind technology. So under this program and the discussions that we are doing today, our focus is going to be on natural refrigerant and not-in-kind technology. Our next objective was to look at India Cooling Action Plan, which is actually, India is a leader as far as Cooling Action Plan is concerned. India was the first country to come out with Cooling Action Plan. And after that, many more countries have devised their own Cooling Action Plan. And our third objective was to listen to all the stakeholders. And therefore, I started by saying that under this program, we had an opportunity to hear everyone, to understand everyone's perspective, and then find some answers on how do we break some of the roadblocks, remove some of the roadblocks that is there in advancing the agenda of green cooling in India. As I started by saying, we are going to release 5 policy briefs today, and I'm just going to give you a brief introduction and what we have found on those 5 policy briefs. The first policy brief is on natural refrigerant, and all the stakeholders that we engaged with were quite clear that natural refrigerant adoption is not a problem. This is something which can be adopted in more than 3/4 of the appliances, cooling appliances that is there in the country. There were some bottlenecks, but those bottlenecks have also been removed. The biggest advantage of natural refrigerant is that it is patent-free technology. We do not have to move to HFOs, which have patent trap inbuilt by multinational companies. So this is a patent-free technology. The technology has been used in household refrigerator in India for decades. It is now being used for residential air conditioning in India. And therefore, we have all the technological requirement to move to natural refrigerants. On top of it, Bureau of Indian Standards now have safety standards for natural refrigerant, which makes it even easier for manufacturers to shift from high GWP refrigerant to natural refrigerants. And therefore, as I said, in our estimation, about 77% of current stock of refrigerant can be moved to natural refrigerant straight away. And this will save about 50 million tons of carbon dioxide equivalent per year emission reduction to refrigerant alone. And because it is a non-patented technology, it is also a Make in India agenda. We could build our REC sector based on natural refrigerant, which is domestically grown, researched, and manufactured. So this is what is the biggest advantage we found in case of natural refrigerant. As far as energy efficiency is concerned, we are not the first one to tell you this. All the research papers are very clear that historically, energy efficiency cost has not led to increase in cost of appliances. In fact, the real cost of refrigeration and air conditioning appliances in India have reduced with increased efficiency. Just to contextualize it, if you look at today's market, the difference in price between a 3-star and a 5-star is about 20%. That's the difference in price, about 10,000 rupees. Now, if you start breaking up the 10,000 rupees, you find that the incremental cost of energy efficiency is only a small portion of that. There are many other costs that is built when you move from 3-star to 5-star, which includes markups, which could be as much as 200%. And we did an estimation under this project, and we found that the incremental cost, even if you assume a markup of 100%, the incremental cost of moving to 3-star to 5-star is about $75, about 10% of the cost, okay? Which is a gross overestimation of energy efficiency cost. So energy efficiency is affordable. The objection that is being put forth by manufacturers today that enhancing BEE energy efficiency standards will lead to increase in cost of appliances doesn't actually, it doesn't matches all the estimation that is available right now. And therefore, the cost is quite reasonable. The market historically has not changed because energy efficiency have improved. In fact, it has increased and over the period of time. Coming to the India Cooling Action Plan, we did actually look at all the recommendation and their progress, where we are as far as India Cooling Action Plan is concerned. A disclaimer here, India Cooling Action Plan was done, and just after that we had COVID. So many of the things that India Cooling Action Plan wanted to do couldn't be done because of the focus of the country had changed. Nevertheless, our analysis shows that the recommendation, many of the recommendation India Cooling Action Plan, and as you can see, the recommendations are put under 6 brackets: space cooling, cold chain, transport, REC servicing, refrigerant demand, and R&D. And many of these recommendations, one of the big problem is that they're not measurable. We will have difficulty in measuring the progress of those recommendations. The second is that there are many recommendations where nothing has happened, whereas in many other vertical, for example, space cooling, many of the recommendations, there have been some progress. Ultimately, what we recommend is that there is a huge potential to synergize interministerial cooperation in ICAP. ICAP currently can only be operationalized if every stakeholder on board understands their responsibility and accountability. The second is, how do we bring resources to ICAP? ICAP doesn't have financial resources of its own. It depends on resources of other ministries. We will have to re-look at the financial aspect of ICAP. The third is, how do we localize implementation of ICAP? ICAP currently is seen as a central government, Delhi-centric program. How do we take it to states and cities? And lastly, how do we increase awareness and perception around ICAP? Our survey shows that at the state level and city level, the understanding on ICAP is quite low. So what is the way ahead? If you put together all the 5 policy briefs together, we essentially think that while ICAP recognizes cooling as an equity issue, we think that it has to be redefined as cooling for everyone. It's no more a luxury issue. With global warming happening, and it is quite clear that even if we are able to stop warming to 1.5 degrees Celsius, the temperature and humidity factor still will be unbearable. And therefore, India must start thinking about cooling for everyone. It doesn't have to be technology-led. It could be building design. It could be how do we redesign our urban spaces. But this has to be agenda, because certain part of the year, the temperature and humidity factor will make everything unbearable. Second, we need to diversify our technology portfolio. The current technology, vapor compression, fluorinated gas technology has to, from there, we have to start moving to not-in-kind technology and natural refrigerants. We have to link and leverage existing policies and mechanisms. As I said, ICAP will have to become more targeted and measurable so that we are able to see what progress we have made. We have done a comparison between China's ICAP and India's ICAP to see where is the difference. And the difference clearly is that China's ICAP is very focused on only a limited number of measurable indicators. It is very focused, where India is largely very broad and overarching. So maybe India will have to also make its cooling action plan much more measurable and targeted. Second, we need to link INDC and ICAP. ICAP progress must also reflect our progress on nationally determined contribution. And we will have to address energy efficiency and low GWP refrigerant simultaneously, nationally at Bureau of Indian Energy Efficiency and internationally at the Montreal Protocol. And lastly, Reiterating it again, let's localize the implementation of green cooling. Let's think about states and cities, and let's start enrolling state and cities agencies for implementation of ICAP. So this is broadly what the presentation is all about. And we look forward to an exciting few hours of discussion on these topics. Thank you very much.
Thank you, CB. And with that, I think I'll take this opportunity to share with all of you our policy briefs and our working paper. All four of them are already on the Shakti website, but we will be putting it up on our website as well very soon. I now invite our special guest, Dr. Bharadwaj, CEO of Shakti Sustainable Energy Foundation, to please share his thoughts on the issue of green cooling.
Thank you very much. Thank you for the invite, and thank you, CB. Many congratulations to you and your team for this analysis and for publishing the 5 policy briefs. I did read the short summary which was sent to us with some interest. Look forward to reading the policy briefs in more detail. From Shakti side, it's a pleasure, and we are really happy to partner with you in this endeavor. It's always a pleasure to work with you and iForest in areas of interest. I think your presentation was very persuasive and compelling, and you made a very strong case for why immediate action is required in cooling and what needs to be done. I especially liked your statement that cooling is no longer a luxury issue. We belong to the generation, I suppose you and I, when we were growing up, that time cooling, AC was a far off thing. Even room coolers was a luxury thing. But now we have come to a point where space cooling is no longer a luxury thing, and I totally agree with you. Just to add a few points from my side, folks, July 7th, 8th was a very important day in our country in the sense our peak electricity demand crossed 200 gigawatts for the first time. And this was noted by the power minister himself in his tweet when he said that our peak demand has touched 200 gigawatts. Now, energy analysts have explored various reasons why this has happened. COVID recovery, the commercial and industrial activity having bounced back to normal is obviously one probably important factor. My own sense is that if we disaggregate the demand, the role of cooling will definitely emerge as a very important factor, because that period of July coincided with extremely hot phase in most parts of Delhi, North India, especially Delhi and the NCR regions. And the temperatures are really high. So this is a trend which is going to continue, as you said, and as you have been articulating about heat waves. This is something that we will go on seeing with more and more high intensity. So thus the need for cooling, the demand for cooling is set to rise exponentially. In fact, I'm quoting a report which was done by my colleague from Shakti, Ritika Jain, said that as of now in India, about 8 to 10% households have air conditioners. And this is set to increase to about 50% in the next 30 years. So you can imagine the phenomenal scale at which we are seeing growth in this sector. Air conditioner market itself, if we compare with other markets, which grow typically at 5, 6, 7%, AC markets has been going at 10, 12%. And I recall a few years back, there was a time when they touched even 15 or 17% growth, annual growth in the sales of the air conditioners. And obviously, this leads to a huge demand in energy. But it also poses an additional challenge that in addition to gross energy, it impacts the load curve. For example, if you compare Delhi's load curve of 2008, a typical day in summer, with the same load curve on the same day in 2019, what is noticeable is, of course, the higher loads, no doubt, but the shift towards night loads. The peak in night is getting much, much sharper in Delhi NCR region. And that presumably is because of the much higher air conditioning loads which come up post evening when people are home and air conditioners run right through the night. So this is a trend which we are seeing shifting the AC demand, cooling demand, at least from residential sector, is more concentrated towards the evening and night areas. Now that poses a challenge for the renewables, especially solar, because when this demand occurs, solar is not there. In fact, there was a TERI study recently which mentioned that space cooling demand and this surge could be a challenge in our integration of renewables and our meeting of the RE targets. The other challenge which you also highlighted is the fact that along with energy growth, we are looking at more and more deployment of the HFCs as refrigerants in our systems, which have very high GWP, almost 1,000 times more than what CO2 has, and they last in the atmosphere for several decades. So that's the next challenge we need to. As you said, the Indian Cooling Action Plan has been was a great and landmark step in this direction to check and take policy action to address some of these issues, focusing number one on reducing cooling demand, basically by looking at new design of structures, new architectural designs where you can reduce the cooling demand itself, reducing refrigeration demand, and finally reducing energy demand by more efficient appliances. Now, in the last 3 years, the progress, so while this was a great step, the progress has been, I would say, modest. In some we have done better, in some we have done not so well, and it's time to take stock of what needs to be done going forward, because as we noted, it's a very, very fast growing sector. And we should not allow us to be locked into inefficient practices or appliances or buildings, etc., before it is too late. So it's important to take course correction right now and see what needs to be done. Some factors which come to my mind, one, of course, cost. So you did mention that the cost comparison of 5-star versus 3-star air conditioner. And while the cost differential may be 10,000, it is still a fair bit. I mean, it is still a deterrent in purchase of 5-star appliances. Many times when, for example, even when I go to the market to buy an AC, I think twice whether I should buy a 5-star one or go for a cheaper one. The discounting rate, somehow, you know, I mean, there needs to be a better business case for a consumer that, yes, this is what I want to go for. And the other aspect is that even the 5-star rated appliances in India, they still are a notch below the globally best, which are available in, say, Japan or Korea. So getting the best technologies here, the super efficient appliances, making them cost effective is a big challenge. Second, you noted the transition to natural and NIK technologies. Yes, technologies are available. A lot of R&D has taken place. How can we make sure these are mainstreamed? And I think concrete policy action will be required. Maybe some initial support from government to get them, and then they can compete with the existing technologies. Implementation of building codes is a no-brainer. It's extremely important to make sure all buildings going forward include the thermal comfort and design for minimizing energy into their building design. And finally, social and behavioral aspects. You know, it's while we work on technologies and all, not to forget the fact that the thermostat temperature at which we set our ACs, 24, 25, 26, these have an incredibly important impact on electricity demand on an aggregate basis. And therefore, the engagement of citizens, consumers in this process becomes very important. So those are my initial comments, CV, and I really look forward to reading the reports. I congratulate you and the iForest team for a very timely work. I also thank colleagues from Shakti, Shivashish and Ritika who worked with you in this project, and look forward to the discussions. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Bharadwaj. I now invite our chief guest, Mr. Aditya Narayan, Additional Director, Ozone Cell, Ministry of Environment, Forest and Climate Change, to please share his impressions on green cooling.
Thank you, Apurva. Good afternoon, distinguished panelists and participants. It gives me immense pleasure to participate in the webinar on green cooling in India, organized by iForest and Shakti Foundation. India has been playing a proactive role in the implementation of ozone depleting substance phase-out activities in the country. A structured implementation framework supported by a robust regulatory framework and fiscal measures have led to India's successful meeting all the ODS phase-out targets of the Montreal Protocol, including the phase-out of SCFC 141B, a chemical used by foam manufacturing enterprises as a blowing agent in the production of rigid polyurethane foams and one of the most potent ozone-depleting chemicals after chlorofluorocarbons. India is one among the developing countries to phase out SCFC 141B. India has consciously chosen a path for environment-friendly and energy-efficient technologies while phasing out ozone-depleting substance. Importantly, India is one among the few countries globally and a pioneer in some cases in the use of technologies which are non-ozone depleting and have a low global warming potential. Cooling is linked with many sustainable development goals, and globally, a large part of cooling is scattered through refrigerant-based cooling. The aggregated nationwide cooling demands in tonnage of refrigeration is projected to grow 8 times by 2037-38 as compared to 17-18 baseline, out of which the building sector cooling demand shows a significant growth at nearly 11 times, cold chain and refrigeration sector of around 4 times, and transport air conditioning sector at around 5 times the 2017-18 baseline levels. As of you are aware, India is one of the first countries in the world to launch a comprehensive cooling action plan, which has a long-term vision to address the cooling requirement across sectors, including in residential and commercial buildings. The ICAP strives to harmonize energy efficiency while implementing the ongoing SCFC phase-out and to be implemented the high global warming potential HFC phase-down under the Kigali Amendment. The intervention scenario in the ICAP suggests that through proactive measures, the total refrigerant demand can be reduced by 25% to 30% and cooling energy requirement by 25% to 40% respectively by the year 37-38. Toward promoting sustainable cooling, a balanced approach of both passive cooling and active cooling strategies, as well as optimizing cooling loads encompassing natural and mechanical ventilation in building design, thermal comfort, a standard specifying presetting of temperature for air conditioning equipment in commercial built spaces, promoting use of energy efficient refrigerant based appliances, including not-in-kind technologies, energy efficient and renewable energy based cold chain, framework for training and certification of refrigeration and air conditioning servicing technicians, need to be adopted. These issues have been appropriately addressed in the India Cooling Action Plan under the sectoral themes. The implementation of the recommendations of the ICAP will be through forging synergies with ongoing government programs, schemes, and integration into documents. Some of these are the Energy Conservation Building Code for all large commercial buildings and Eco-Niwas Samhita, ECBCR, in all housing projects. A star and labeling program, minimum energy performance standards, including new energy performance standards for all room air conditioners to have default temperature setting of 24 degree of the Bureau of Energy Efficiency for air conditioners and other appliances will greatly help in developing and promoting sustainable cooling solutions. Upskilling and certification of refrigeration and air conditioning service technician on good servicing practices and knowledge of alternative refrigerant to ozone depleting substance under the National Skill Qualification Framework of the Pradhan Mantri Kaushal Vikas Yojana of the Ministry of Skill Development and Entrepreneurship is another initiative to prevent leakages and emission of refrigerants. The Ozone Cell MOFCC is working on the action plan on the implementation of the recommendation of the ICAP through promoting appropriate synergies with the ongoing schemes in various sectors. We would be happy to receive suggestions and inputs for developing the framework for implementation of the recommendation of the ICAP. Regarding observation made by the Sri Chandra Bhushan Saab, I do not agree with his views on ICAP. Various steps are being taken regarding research development thematic area. Department of Science and Technology, Government of India has funded a research project to CSIR, Indian Institute of Chemical Technologies, Hyderabad. And regarding servicing sector, we are taking so many initiatives, such as I said earlier, upskilling and certification of 1 lakh REC technician on good servicing practices. Apart from that, 17,000 REC service technicians are being trained under the HPMP 2 program. And also the B has completed a study to analyze the energy efficiency potential for the promoting energy efficiency in cold chain with focus on pack houses. With these few words, I thank the organizer for inviting me to share my thoughts on this very important subject. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Narayan, for your really well put update on the ICAP. We do look forward to seeing the implementation of the ICAP unfold, and we have made a note of all the updates you've provided to us in your speech today.